I think that hardest part has really been I don't want to say setting my foot down, but in a sense of realizing what our business needs and how we can do better for each individual if we stick to what we know here. And I've been really adamant with my team about that, where things go wrong when you break out of the norm. I call it stubbing my pinky toe. I don't want to stub my pinky toe anymore.
You're listening to Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, a podcast for those who are in and around the hospitality industry who love, live, and breathe what they do. You can join us for candid and unscripted conversations with hospitality experts and founders as we go deeper into their personal stories while they're sharing their triumphs and trials that got them to where they are today. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and you're listening to an episode of Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast. Now, let's begin. All right, welcome back. Another Minute with Nathan Smith, who leads the US sales with Minute. And we're going to jump into what is audio ID exactly? We hear about it. I love the technology, but let's explain it a little bit more for the listeners.
So, audio ID specifically came about with our new sensor because it is weatherproof and can be used outdoors. We built a feature in that would detect and remove things like wind noise from the audio data so that you're not getting false positives. Because obviously, we want you to know when there's an actual party issue or loud noise in general that pertains to your guests. So we use machine learning to allow the sensor to know when something is wind or some other form of noise. And this is something that we will continually be improving and expanding upon over time. So if you do have false positives, let us know. And it's something that will continue to improve to determine, is this construction noise? Is this traffic noise, et cetera, to make sure that the alerts that you're getting are actually about noise.
I love it. You heard it here first, folks. A Minute with Minute, and now back to the episode. Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and as always, we have another amazing guest for the show today. So I get to welcome Allison Bayley, who is not just an awesome short-term rental operator, but she's a young, professional, awesome short-term rental operator. And we're going to dive into her story today. But Allison, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me today. How are you?
Yes, thank you so much, Will. I am just absolutely pumped to be here. As I told you before we had started, I'm feeling prepped to go. I've been listening to the Hospitality FM, catching in. So I'm very excited today and kind of share where the craziness kind of all started.
Let's segue right in. I'm curious because you and we got to chat, and your your story, I would say we all kind of accidentally fall into or accidentally get into or whatever the phrase is into short-term rentals. But yours is very unique in particular. So I'd love to take us to the beginning in the sense of where was that light bulb moment for you when you're like, this is the direction we're gonna go.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the time, I was living in Texas. It was kind of my thing after I had left high school. I just kind of bounced around for a little bit, traveled around for about 4 or 5 years. And my mom is a real estate agent. She's been a real estate agent for about over 30 years now. And she had given me a call. It was like Tuesday or Wednesday. She said, "Hey, Allison, I'm wanting to know if you want to come home and if you want to check out a seminar on vacation rentals." She was like, "Because I'm getting a lot of questions about it, and it's something that we don't have inside of our network. So I'd love to take you and see what you think." And I attended one of the state meetings, and that was where my light bulb hit in. A little bit before, it's always that thing where it's like, yeah, everything seems like a good idea. And then you get in there and you think, wow, I could really get my hands dirty on this, really get my hands dirty on this.
Yeah.
So that is kind of where the brainchild had started. My mother starting that and then needing someone really to kind of man everything, run everything, be the face. And so that's kind of where we're here now.
I love it. And so let's go backwards a little bit before we jump into how you've kind of cultivated not only a culture, but a operation and just an overall day to day. business. And you're, reminding me of our pre-chat. You're telling me how seasonal it is for your market. And that was one of the mind-blowing things for me where I was like, what is really that seasonal? Like you have such a short period, but it's such a full-time thing throughout the year for you. So going backwards into your, let's say, middle school, high school days, what was that like? Were you the child that was super like go getter, or did you, I don't know, not feel like you knew exactly where you wanted to go right after high school and that experience through being in Texas?
Yeah. So I never knew what I wanted to do and kind of until I stumbled into it. When I was younger, when I was in high school, which is not that long ago, I was very passionate towards people, kind of always have been. I started working when I was about 11 for my grandparents. They have a campground, so they're in hospitality as well. So I
Mhm.
spent my summers working at the campground, baking fresh muffins with my grandmother and scooping ice cream and anything else that entails that anyone else needed. And actually, funny enough, I flunked my SATs because it was the same day as prom. And if you could take a look at this, you can kind of see that I had my priorities aligned that day and it wasn't necessarily the SAT.
No.
So I signed up to retake it. No, not at all. So I signed up to retake it. And it's the night before. I got the whole guidebook and everything, and I hadn't even opened the page. And I came downstairs and I am just crying. And my mom was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Mom, I just don't know if I'm gonna make it through college if I can't even retake my SATs." And it was a very strong thing in our household where you're financially independent. We
Mhm.
started being financially independent when we were even younger, but especially once we turned 18. If we were going to college, it was something that we were taking care of ourselves. And I thought, Mom, I don't know how I'm supposed to pay all of this money and have the potential to fail these classes and take that responsibility. And she said, Allison, all you need to do is you need to work hard. You need to be a good person. You need to contribute to society and you need to take care of yourself. However, you do it in between is entirely your business. So I said, thanks, mom. And I found a website called backdoorjobs.com and I moved to Mexico. And I received my first level of professional scuba certification. So I'm actually a dive master. So I got a little
Wow.
over 200 dives under my belt. And after that, I just started popping around a little bit more, a little bit in the Midwest, a little bit out on the West Coast, kind of jumping around until I was in Texas and then found myself back home. So the whole people aspect, the hospitality aspect, the taking care aspect is just it's the color of my blood. I don't know anything else. It's just always where my heart has been.
Mm. It sounds like it's like a natural thing for you there with school, flunking SATs. Obviously, like prom was that like, come on, what high schooler? Even my niece who is so antisocial and she only like loves to read books and do all this stuff, she still went to prom. And I was like, come on, I knew you were gonna, want to go to prom. It's everyone wants to go to prom, no matter how social or not you are. It's come on, it's high school.
I mean, it's
So
prop. When
exactly.
1 PM rolled around and I said, DEAFG, I gotta go.
I gotta go, exactly, get into the limo, like, done,
Yeah.
out, and,
Yes.
so, yeah, no, that makes total sense, but would you consider yourself like, were you a naturally book smart person in high school? Were you a straight A student? Did you struggle with school? Because there's another common thread I've seen with a lot of entrepreneurs, not just in the space, but entrepreneurs in general. School was not maybe A, like you said, top priority, or B, their best skill set where they barely make it or they drop out or whatever the scenario might be. So I'm kind of curious from you, were you naturally just gifted in that area, but you're like, once prom hit, like you said, you're out? Or was it a struggle for you as well?
Schooling was always a struggle for me.
Yeah.
On a full transparency, I almost flunked out of high school by missing a single class. Now, that was not allowed in our household, and our only job growing up was to graduate high
Yeah.
school. My mom got a little bit anxious about it, but I knew I always pulled through. I knew I always had it in me. But school was definitely just not my strong suit. It was always more I was always just there for the social aspect. I mean, other than the obvious of kids attending school, but it was really the sports were always big for me. The team aspect of it was always big for me, and my friends were a huge thing for me.
Mm,
So, it's funny doing what I'm doing now and kind of looking back or, like, having outside conversations in that term and comparing yourself a lot as well to those that do have a higher education or do have more experience in that aspect of it. But when I started this business, I got starting a business for dummies. And he read on through and did as much as I could, and having my mother as a resource as well. But a lot of it comes from the self-taught aspect of it.
Mm.
Really getting your hands dirty again, finding out what's actually going on, what's right, what's wrong. But the whole plethora of knowledge from the books, I'm street smart all
Yeah,
day
street
long.
smart with a mix of starting a business for dummies book. A little bit of tech. A
A
a little bit.
a little bit in there. And now I have been gotten into the habit of when I hear a good book, especially like inside of our industry, taking up to read those as well. But my information, knowledge, and retention always came from doing it firsthand.
Walk me through your experiences in Mexico. I'm a big fan of Mexico. I lived in Mexico for a month last year just because I was tired of the Denver cold. But what were some big takeaways or expectations maybe that you had going into it that either A, didn't go the way you thought, or B, went completely the opposite, but in such a positive way that
Mm,
influenced you to where you are now? And like kind of like
mm.
stuff that you apply today.
Mexico did change my life for me too. At the time when I had left, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I said, scuba diving sounds cool. Let me go ahead and try it. And again, relating back to where I'm at right now, I'm not really the person that can fit her outfits in a backpack or carry on size, wasn't really my forte. So I came in with my nice big suitcases, almost to everything I own, my high heels included as well for the street of Mexico. And one of the first few nights I got there, we were all in this chat together, and we all lived in separate housing. They provided housing, so we're all in separate housing. And little old me's messaging, guys, where's this? Guys, where's that? You know, I need help this. And one of the dive instructors, her name is Yasmin. This sticks with me. I tell this story, I want to say once a week. And she came up to me and she's got her British accent, which I'm not going to do because I'm not going to insult anyone with my horrible accent. She comes up to me, and at this point in time, it's already 1 out of 10. She's like, listen here. She's like, I know you just got here. And I know, obviously, this is your first time traveling. She's like, but this isn't how life works. She
Mm,
said, if you want something done, you do it yourself. You figure it out. You can ask other people, but don't rely on other people. If you're
mm,
going to go in there, you got to pull yourself up and figure it out because you got yourself here. Now you got to get around. And that just, like I said, really hits home to me in a lot of aspects. And I do it in a lot of comparison with my business practice as well. When I'm doing something, whether it's owner related, team related, or guest related, I'm making sure that they have everything that they need, or at least the resources to be able to assist themselves in doing it. Because that part really stuck with me. And I think you see that with guests a lot too. Just the convenience wise. And I think that's where it was for me as well. The convenience wise to ask someone else versus figuring it out on your own and finding that self sufficiency. So I really try in that aspect, but also driving that point home to myself, which is
yeah,
you can figure it out yourself. You can
yeah,
find it. You can do what
yeah.
you need to do.
We grew up in the age of Google, so things are
Oh,
pretty.
you mean my
Yeah,
best friend?
yeah,
Google.com?
exactly. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah,
My near and
exactly,
dear, my number one Facebook
exactly.
friend? That's absolutely right.
Yeah. No, I love it, and this is it's such a fun journey, and I would love to kind of see so you get back, your mom's like, "Hey, there's this thing called short-term rentals, would love to have you come check it out, maybe it's something that you would like." You come back, you're exposed to it, you realize you can get your hands dirty. What's the first thing you guys do? What was this and I also kinda want I know a lot of people, especially in our age group, when a big life change happens or is about to happen and we know it's about to happen, or we're about to move, or we're about to change careers or start a business or make a life choice with a significant other or whatever it could be, right? There's always that piece of maybe not hesitation, but oh, like, okay, this is about to be a new chapter. This is about to be something different. This is about to change the direction of my life currently or what I thought it was gonna be. Did you have a moment where you had to kind of self-reflect and be like, "Okay, this is a change, this is a shift," or did it not click until maybe later on?
Yeah, it wasn't really a click for me until later on because the aspect of me being able to be good at anything I do, as far as work related, I've always felt confident in that. You know what I mean? I've always held long jobs. I've never been fired. I've always been the shift leader. I've always been the manager position. So for
Mhm,
me, it's hunky dory. This is great. I can do this. I've done this before. And it's always that really the end goal that keeps you pushing, right? Which is what you hope for, which in my opinion is early retirement and unlimited resources and things like that. So you drive toward that. And then about a year and a half to 2 years later, I said, that's so far, I almost can't see it anymore. And so you
Mhm,
repace your thinking to what's here right now is already not working. So it's like,
mm,
it's kind of, for me, I kept going back and forth where I was like, oh, yes, this is the end. Oh, we're going there. This is where we're going. And then it's, hold on, we're fixing right here. We're working right here. We're readjusting right here before we get over there. So it didn't
mm,
really hit me. It didn't really hit me until about a year or two later when it's just me and one other person and we're managing 18 homes, which is starting to get a little bit more, oh, we're a business now. We're a
yeah,
business now. Then I hit 44 and I thought, what the heck is going on?
yeah,
Because everything I'm doing has got to go. It was just a constant restructure, regut for me when I got into the realistics of it. And to bring back your point on our very short season, we don't get a prep. We do have shoulder, technically speaking, but you don't
yeah,
get that slight adjustment where it's like, well, maybe this didn't work. We can change it. No, you're hitting the ground running. And when you're running, you're sprinting and you're not stopping. So it's a lot of adjustment in that direct moment as well, because there is no room for error. There's no
yeah.
room for error because when you think about it, if you're lacking behind on a booking, we can make it up on a weekend. We can offset it here. We can lower our pricing, whatever that might be. We don't have that. If we're
Mm.
missing a week here, that's high potential to lose someone, to lose an entire owner. So it is really you're on screech from I'm heading into it right now, and I will see everyone in September.
Walk us through for the listeners, for anyone who doesn't know your destination, doesn't know your market, may or may not understand what we're talking about, because you and I did the pre-chat, but the listeners, they don't know that we talked about all this stuff before. So I want to maybe let's get some pretext on your market, what your guys' seasonality looks like, and then going into when you're off season out of September, what happens with the business, what happens with the homes, how are you guys, what's the day to day look like post and
Mhm.
pre, I guess, or post, during, and oh shoot, I'm getting it mixed up order. Pre, during, post order of season. There we go.
Yes,
All
yeah, all relevant. Yeah, so we are located in Southern Maine. So we are unique in the aspect of all of our properties are within a 7-mile range. So we're
mm,
very specific to where we are. I, luckily enough, have multiple family members inside of the same town that are entrepreneurs as well. As I had mentioned with the campground, and I have some other family members that are in the restaurant business, I'm in the ice cream business. So, entrepreneur just comes through for each one of us, and we're all in the same boat, which is you make sure your ducks in a row before May 1st hits. Because if they're not in a row by May 1st, you don't have time. You got to wait until September to fix it. So
mm,
that I like to tell my team, I do everything in transparency with everyone. It's no joke. It's no joke. We're here easily 50 to 60 hours. There's overtime. It's hot. It's heavy. We have hundreds of people. And if we have to adjust something, we'll take a note, put it in our box, and we're going to reopen it in the fall. It's just
mm,
like what you're saying. My personal life also aligns with that in the sense of everything goes on hold until you can get where you're going and then you can revisit it. So we have our summer in full swing. Our fall, we transition into some longer term rentals, which we don't do full management for. And then we
mm,
call it our hibernation season. So we do have some downtime in the sense of the phones ringing, the inquiries, and everything else coming in. So we really take that time, honestly, to adjust, look over our listing, give us our cleanup time, fix our fees. We spend that time cleaning up. We start gearing up again in probably January, where it starts getting serious. And then as May 1st hits, everything's scheduled for what needs to be on the books. And we had our first check in today. So,
wow. Well, yeah, for all the listeners, we're recording this episode May 2nd. So I think this episode goes out, I think, end of June. So we have some production time, but it does, I'm surprised that you one were able to be free today. And so thank you for taking your first your May 1st or May 2nd opportunity to chat, but it's wild. From May to September, you're gonna have such a extensive run of just
Mm.
full swing. Like,
Oh,
to
yeah.
me, because I think a lot of us, we all have holiday bookings, summer, spring break, whether school breaks are, there's all sorts of winter
Mhm.
holidays, etc. But for you guys, you don't get much like after this. It's summer, and after that, you don't get storm watchers coming in. You don't get like little one off. It's very much long term.
Sometimes we get a little lucky. Sometimes we get a pop.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'll get if we have 2 bookings over Christmas, hallelujah. You know what I mean? That's where we're at. We follow very along the lines of the school schedule. So we're
Mm,
still like it's lucky that we have our person checking in today, which is in May, and we don't have another one coming in until June. So we follow right in that school schedule. And the other half of it is not only are we a travel destination, I mean, our slogan is vacation land.
mm,
So the entirety of the state works like dogs for our summer, and then we all hibernate in the winter. So that also means all of our local summer businesses, they are just opened this past weekend. So normal attractions that people would come to enjoy are just not there in the winter months. We're a little bit too far out from the mountains for someone to seek this destination. So we transition a lot of our owners, as discussed, into those winter long-term rentals. That way we can tell them you can leave it open. And so for the homeowners that are okay with not getting rentals and want to use it periodically for themselves in the off season, that works fine. For those that financially rely on the income, we always make suggestions to go through and find your long-term tenant, which opens up a
mm.
whole other can of worms in the aspect of taking care of the property when summertime hits.
100%. Because you have to make sure that they're out of there before probably what? Obviously, you said May 1st, so they have to be out of there by April. You have the cleanup time, the potential repairs. Who knows what else goes into that?
Yeah. And so this particular one where someone's here today, that property is open. So in for our winter ones, the
Mhm.
winter leave on May 31st, and then you have about 2 weeks for prep.
Wow. Wow.
About 2 weeks for prep, and we do a lot of that prep with our owners because we like to call ourselves one-stop shop. If you find
Mhm.
a better slogan than that, definitely let me know. We consider ourselves the one-stop shop, so we do a lot of that assistance with the owners to maintain what's inside the property, to make sure everything's in working order before people get there, having maintenance come through at the start of season, checking our light bulbs, checking all of the filters, smoke detectors, really getting everything prepped to go, but it is a very quick turnaround, and we
Yeah.
do it as much as we do a lot of ourselves. Our homeowners are great in that aspect of too, especially for the ones who have been doing it for so long. They're great about coming in. It's a teamwork makes the dream work. It's a three-way street between us and the owner and the guests. It's a three-way street.
Yeah. No, that's so true. I'm kinda curious though, from the beginning when you started this, you kinda mentioned 18 homes and then 44 and all this.
Mhm,
So how like, obviously, you got your hands dirty. You said that it's the best way you learn. I'm
mhm.
curious, what was the biggest challenge, I guess, going from 1 to 5 to 10 to 18 to 44 to where you guys are today in the sense of knowing the seasonality? I'm sure you had to
Mhm,
figure that out, or unless maybe there was kind of already a presumed
mhm,
understanding like, "Okay, these are gonna be our crazy times." What was
mhm.
some of the biggest challenges as you scaled?
Expectation management always.
Mm,
Over under what is that? Under promise, over deliver. So the
mhm.
expectation part, when you much as everyone knows, when you first start your business, you take anything that comes your way. Great. Yes,
Yeah,
I'll take you. Sure, you have specialty here. Yes, you want to do this. Yes, you want to do that. So it's great. You get everyone in through the door, and then you realize, wait, this actually can't work if we're doing it on this scale with this many people. So now I got to go back and I got to let my people from the beginning know, hey, would love to do this for you. Unfortunately, this isn't how we can't do it anymore. I can't drop a package off. I can't meet your maintenance person. I
yeah,
can't get a specialized gift just for your particular home and maintain it and restock it and deliver it.
yeah.
So that part was really difficult as far as what everyone is expecting. And then the operations piece, definitely. Because when you're at 5 to 18, the 44 hit hard, but when you're at the 5 to 18, it's okay. I can pull some trash. It's
Mhm.
okay. I can do this. It's okay. I can do a grill. Well, once you hit at that 44, no, I can't do 44 grills. No, I can't do this. And now we're at the level of 64. So I especially can't do that now. So I think that hardest part has really been I don't want to say setting my foot down, but in a sense of realizing what our business needs and how we can do better for each individual if we stick to what we know here. And I've been really adamant with my team about that, where things go wrong when you break out of the norm. I call it stubbing my pinky toe. I don't want to stub my pinky toe anymore. I want to be able to walk evenly and not worry about crunching it into something. And every time I break out of the norm, there goes a dresser I'm bumping into, and there's a bed I'm bumping into. So being very strategic in the sense of this is what we're doing, this is the way that we're doing it, and we're rolling that
Yeah.
way.
When it comes to the systems and operations, I'm curious. I'm sure you discovered many tools along the way. How do you operate now versus how you operated back then when it comes to, again, like tech and then just like you say, not trying to stub your pinky toe anymore? I think a lot of us can, especially if you're a one stop shop can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people, right?
Mhm.
So how do you create that standardization internally and set the expectation, communicate the expectation, and this can go from the owner side, but also with your guests and your team.
Yeah. So, funny enough, I mean, I had an iPad when I was in 8th grade. You think I would have not started on Google Sheets, but I did, just like everyone else. And on a
Yeah.
Google Calendar, you'd think I'd have a little bit there. I'm into my 3rd property management software right now. So that's been huge, finding someone, that does what you need it to do, has a good support system, has good help centers, can further the knowledge from everyone there. I'm huge on the independent learning. I'm huge on the
Yeah.
independent learning. The technology piece was the best introduction I could have done. I mean, we're using Hostfully as our PMS. Breezeway has been, of course, essential as much as other people in our industry know how crucial
Yeah.
that is. The guest communication piece, we have just started. This is our 2nd year introduction with utilizing text messaging.
Mhm.
That's really been huge as well. A huge shift for me was I actually use Hostfully Open API and I have
Okay.
it integrated with my Monday.com. So my
Wow.
customer relationship management. So everything is updated in real time. So if a lead comes in, we have a strategic way where it's going. And then we have an updated in real time timeline of who we're working with, who we need to follow up with, who's already been booked. And that's where really the CRM and Monday.com has changed our lives, because it is a place where you can put all your information, especially these days where there are so many great technology pieces, but it
Mhm.
does require, in the sense I always think of it as like a multi-step click. We have
Yeah.
all of these great things that are running our business, but it does require us to have 4, 5, 6 tabs open at all time to kind of keep it happening. So Monday really allows us to slim that down, have an idea where we're putting our timelines of what needs to be done, our executions, our planning, our communication. I mean, I tell them anything you can think of, even if a whisper comes across, throw it into Monday, because now that allows everyone to be updated in real time all the time. It gives you a
Mm.
great point of reference when you're going back. You've got date period. And that's been extremely crucial when you're also navigating, I would say, tougher decisions or tougher
Yeah.
things, because oftentimes, as we know in business, it doesn't count if you don't have it in writing.
Yep.
So it's been very crucial in that aspect. So it also, I think, encourages myself and other people to feel more confident in what they're doing because they can locate where they found it, where they kind of needed it. So thankfully, we haven't done too many software switches recently. What's really changed too is utilizing Wheelhouse and Ben Coleman at Rev and Research. I mean, that's really just really
Yeah.
taken us off, really taken us
Yeah.
off. We've been with them coming up 2 years in October. And not only are they great at what they do, both Andrew and the team at Wheelhouse, as well as Ben and Rebecca at Rev and Research, not only are they fantastic what they do, but they're good people. And
Yeah.
I've really been able to utilize their skill and their knowledge to propel me in the direction that I'm going, because we're a nice big collective unit. When one does good, we
Yeah.
all do.
Exactly. No, that's great. I was just kind of curious. So this is just so fascinating for me, especially there's not like no disrespect to anyone who's listening that I'm not like trying to call the industry old or you old, but there's not a lot of young operators in our space. It's if they are, it's maybe at the scale of one or two properties. They only know about it on Airbnb and being on Airbnb directly, which is nothing wrong with that either, but it's very much like a very entry level type of scenario where you have a full on brand, a full on tech stack. You have API integrations with Monday or hostfully into Monday, but like this isn't something I feel like a young professional in our space really can like just jump right into. This is where the big 20 plus year legacy companies are doing API integrations and they've built a team and they built the systems. And it just sounds like to me you've built such an incredible, and maybe not that you've built, it just sounds like you haven't taken a second to hesitate to build and just start building resources rather than where I think a lot of people would get more or less stuck and be okay with the chaos. Like, okay, it's just 3 months of chaos. We just got to get through. Just get people checked in, make sure the places are clean, and that's it. Versus you have legit systems, operations, and tech in play. So I'm curious, did you read books outside of the Business for Dummies? Did you listen to podcasts? Did you research things? Did you go on LinkedIn? Did you connect with any of like did you ask anyone at these companies, whether it's Hostfully or Wheelhouse or Breezeway, where should they go for or where should you go for these resources? Like that just sounds like you've built something so I don't know, just naturally built. If I'm even phrasing it right, but it just seems I feel like a lot of people would take a lot longer to get where you are, is basically what I'm saying.
Thank you. Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I really appreciate that. I owe it all to my sweet grandmother, Kathleen Bailey. That's really where it starts. I recognize the fact that my family being established in this town, in this community, I mean, we've been in this town for over 100 years. So I
Yeah.
recognize and appreciate that I have been given a head start. And I
Mhm.
recognize that in the sense of being able to have our last name comes with the aspect of great service and great hospitality. It's a little bit of a
Mhm.
double edged sword because
Mhm.
I hold myself as well to that standard. So it
Mhm.
starts with my grandmother. She's always been huge encouragement. Shout out to Justin Ford before he had started on his journey where he's at now. We were actually lucky enough to have him in for a little while, and he is who introduced us to VRMA. Justin gave us a great insight on really how things kind of get started and kind of spread the wings and fly. And I like to say, at least for myself, my favorite thing ever is to be wrong
Mhm.
because if I'm wrong, that means I can fix it and I can do it better.
Yeah.
And so that is what I absolutely love. So I did not hold back with my questions and who they were and where they were at and asking for the agreements and what they have in place and they're standardized. And everyone was willing, more than willing to share with it. And it's
Yeah.
those legacy people who have been in for as long as they have and have that experience that sheds light for the younger people that are coming in, right? And that's
100%.
really where I got my push, my drive from is when you go to your first conference, it's
Mhm.
oh my God, it just clicked.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, that just clicked for me. That's a
for
whole
sure.
different level. I'm gonna path over here and I'm gonna move over here and I'm gonna path over here. And it's just like I said, my favorite things to be wrong. It's just the continuing, it's just the adjusting, it's just the keep going. And I simply refuse to fail,
Yeah. Yeah.
which maybe is just a little bit too far, but
Hey, no, I think refuse to fail is another great motto. It's not as good as one stop shop, but still refuse to fail. So it's a good one. I want your kind of opinion on this, and this is something I've really had like a lot of reflection on in the last year. Is that when you are like I'm in my 20s still, I'm 28, and I know you're a little bit younger. You're
mhm, 26.
26.
I
Yeah,
just last year I just turned old enough to rent one of my houses.
right?
My age
Yeah.
limit's 25.
Yeah, I was like, man, once you get past 25, you can rent a car and you can start doing all this other stuff. It's great.
Cheaper car insurance. That's
Exactly.
exactly what I'm talking
Exactly.
about. Let's forget all the other aspects that come into it, but let's take a discount where we can get it.
Amen. Amen. Especially in this economy. But you get so like I don't know, we get exposed to people that have done like you say, I love to be wrong, and we get exposed to so many people that have been wrong 10 years prior to being right. So they've had 10 years of wrong or 5 years or whatever long, right, of them learning to where they're at this point today. And I use Steve Trover and Robin Cragen as really good examples of people I admire and look up to in the industry and also outside of from a leadership perspective, from an entrepreneur perspective and having the ability to say like they've done this for 25, 30 years and they're able to like look, yeah, they obviously the industry has changed in that time, but not enough to destroy the fundamentals of the lessons learned along the way. And so being able to be exposed to people that have had that experience, that have done literally everything right and wrong under the sun. Now,
Mhm.
people like you and I who are in our 20s, we get to flatten that curve a little bit, that learning curve of, okay, it took so and so 10 years. Well, they just gave me 5 years worth of lessons. So maybe I can do it in less than 10 years. Right. And so being
Mhm.
able to learn from that. But what I want your perspective on is that our community of younger operators is very small and we're very spread out. With that, I've learned that I actually, like, yes, I have a business coach. Yes, I have mentors, and this has been really helpful. But I actually learn a lot with my peers. People are in the same situation or the same boat as me rather than on the beach sipping margaritas and pouring martinis, like having that early retirement or being very heavily resourced and all that stuff. I learn a lot from people who are in it with me. And I'm curious
Mhm.
for you, who's in it with you that you've been able to really learn or kind of have that sense of like community. Not that I look up to you, but like I'm linked up right side by side.
Right, right. We're rowing this boat together.
Yep.
For me, I have just always been keen on communication. So, with not just again in business, but in personal. So, like I said, if I'm having a problem or if I'm doing good or whatever that might be, I always am celebrating those wins with everyone that's surrounded by me. But we
Mm.
are actually just a team of three. We're about to be our fourth person. And
Wow.
the three of us we're all 26. So this is our
Wow.
26th year. Yep. So I really rely on them. And I think, in the sense, I mean, I had friends working with me in the first year, friends cleaning toilets. I got friends doing trash. I got friends doing grills. They're all my age. I've got two great friends that are gonna getting married in the fall, and they're both coming in, and they're best
Mm.
friends, and their partners are coming in too. And so I've really been able to get everyone in so that way we can kind of go together. And
Yeah.
one of my key people in office is Monique. And Monique is the same age as me, and I was actually her first friend on the playground. I walked up to her on the playground, asked if she wanted to be friends in 4th grade. And then she is coming
I love
into our 3rd summer with us, and she is just such a crucial aspect inside the business, and definitely of course, my mom too. Always being able to turn to her, always being able to, but you're right, that difference, that age difference does come, like, with the technology, with the process, with the
Mhm.
thinking, and I've been an employee for a long time, so now as a business owner, I try and give it where I can on the
Yeah.
aspect of, you need to take a day, you need to take a day. You go to an appointment, you go to an appointment. You leave for lunch, you leave for lunch. Like, it's a very much ebb and flow, yin and yang. And like said here, if it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work for me. And
Mm.
I need it to work for me. So I need it to work for you. And
Yeah.
so I've been hugely relying on all of my friends and families, and my sister's roped in. She was cleaning the house. Now she's friends with that owner that I have, and he actually let her husband and the groomsmen stay there. So everyone I know has been tentacled out. Now it's
Yeah.
cost me some relationships in my life, some pretty heavy ones when you're comparing your business to your friendship, especially on my age. Especially on my age. I am so career driven. I'm so work focused, a little bit of a workaholic. So when you start to welcome and blend those types of things, those lines can get confusing, and they got
Mhm.
confused. So I
Mhm.
learned my hard lessons, and now I'm moving on from into the next point and who else comes in. But really just anyone who wants to be a good worker, anyone who wants to come in, tell me what you think, tell me what you know, and then we adjust and go together.
What are your I wanna touch on this topic more if you're okay with it, on
Yeah.
the the side of I think it's you kinda mentioned the employee mindset versus the business owner mindset, which is super different. There's a lot of similarities because we end up I think most of us, unless you get crazy venture capital funding and hire a big team right away and all this other stuff, most of us do every job along the way until that position of CEO becomes true and tried.
Mm.
But, with the lines blurring, it takes a lot. It takes a very different mindset. It takes a very different amount of hours. There is no 9 to 5. There is no, "Let me push this off." Like, again, there's we all make this comment, we're not curing cancer, right? But when you have a 24/7 business like this where you have guests that are paying X amount of dollars for the week or the weekend or whatever their trip is, there's a lot at stake because you have, again,
Mhm.
multiple stakeholders kind of putting pressure from the team to the guest to the owner. So with you learning these hard lessons of lines blurring, where I guess there's not really a question, but the question of priority, do you kind of look at it in the sense of like, I'm willing to sacrifice this short term failure or a short term bummer where it's not going to work out. I'm not going to be able to have this personal life or whatever the relationship might be for the longer term success? Or is it more of, I guess, what drives you so hard to make you want to just go that that fast, that speed? And because there are people that have a business and
Mhm.
unplug and they only work 9 to 5 and they don't do the extra work it takes to go further or faster. So I'm
Yep.
just kind of curious on with you with that personal life aspect and balancing that and kind of
Yep.
creating a work life harmony or life harmony in general. What's that?
Yeah.
What drives you?
I haven't found my harmony yet. I haven't really found my harmony yet. But, the first 3.5 years, I didn't take a paycheck. So
Mhm.
that was really, I was emotionally involved into it to the heaviest point.
Yeah.
It wasn't that I was getting money from it, but it was my brain is I'm giving it my soul, my being, my entity, and my best effort. And then when it's still not enough, that part kind of shakes you a little bit more. And then stars you as the time goes on, it's the priority piece of it. What's the priority piece? Like, no, Allison, you don't have to go back to do accounting from 6 p.m. till 12 a.m. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? You can step away a little bit at a different time. Now, if I did not have self control or I did not have discipline, it wouldn't get done because as being a business owner, at the end of the day, if that phone is ringing, it's emergency, then there you are. It's very much with me being as emotionally attached to it as I am as well, and being the face of the company and being a Bailey and representing ourselves. It's very much like I am giving this my absolute all. Now, on a personal note, I'm really driving for early retirement. Is where I'm at. Is I
Yeah.
can sacrifice some of this time if I can get it back at later. Now, there's no guarantee, and life can change and things like that. So that piece has started to sink in a little bit more where it's okay if I pop over to Mexico for a weekend with some friends. It's okay if
Mhm.
I go on a plane. Nothing's going to sink, crash, or burn without me there because now I have great people in place. And before, it's just to that point where you're not getting paid, you're overworked, you're underappreciated. And I just had to say, reevaluate, rethink, restructure because it's the responsibility piece isn't going to change but the mindset is gonna change.
Mhm.
And that took a lot like, I didn't start feeling great about it, honestly, until about a year ago. Like,
Mhm.
even maybe even less than that, to the point where I was like, "I got a real business here." It
Yeah.
got to that point where it's like, "I've got something good here, and it's
Mhm.
something good that I wanna cherish." And that adjustment was
Very nice. Yeah, it's you start to see the fruit. It becomes like it doesn't even have to be a lot of fruit. It's just like you see the tree and it has one orange. You're like, thank God. All right, all right. Thank God. All right. It wasn't just me putting a bunch of water and soil and all this other stuff and trimming and care into it for nothing for it just to be a tree without fruit. To maybe make an analogy there. But no, I love that.
mhm,
And that's is super crucial. Well, Allison, I'm excited because unintentionally this conversation has ended up to the perfect point in a transition where I told you about this before recording that the guest before you, without knowing who you were or who you are, I got to ask a question.
mm,
And this question, actually, I'm loving that this is all naturally like happening because we're not planning any of this and it just becomes organic. But the question, and it's from Mike Shogren with the STR Secrets podcast. He's also got 101 properties from short term rental homes to 3 boutique hotels. So it's got a good, extensive portfolio. His question for you, without me telling him who you were again, was this one really important thing. What is the one thing that in your professional life or your business that you know you should be doing that you're not doing and why?
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay,
Yeah.
so personal and professional. Can be either. Or.
Yeah.
One thing I should be doing that I'm not. Oof.
It's a
Okay, go on.
self-reflector for sure.
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, I think I know the answer, but do I wanna share that?" Yeah.
One thing that I'm doing and not. Yeah, I like that. If any of my owners hear this, I apologize. In my business sense, I do feel we carry a lot of the financial aspect on the owner behalf. And that's for the fees and the bookings and the shampoos and conditioners and trash bags and toilet paper, paper towels, the whole 9 yards. We're taking care of that. Just recently I started adding the non-boarding fee. But one thing I should be doing more is really spreading that out so much because it's fine on a couple, but when you start getting at a larger scale, that the zeros start adding on to the end of it. So
Mhm.
I think one thing I could be doing differently is probably making more owner charges. And if it's something that doesn't work for them, then they'll let you know. And there it gives you in that sense, I would like to think it would give me a little bit more room for negotiation if that's something that I needed. But one thing that we do that is one thing we need to step away from a little bit more is taking on
Mm,
all of that financial responsibility in that
mm.
sense.
Yeah.
You only got 12 weeks to make it the rest of the year.
Hey, just put it in the box, revisit it in the fall, and there you go. That's what you gotta do. It makes
What you
sense.
got to do.
I love it. Well, without knowing who's next, without me
Mhm.
telling you who the next person is, what's your question for them? Could be anything related, personal, professional, business, non-business, industry, non-industry.
Yeah. So, one that I have is whenever you're feeling down or whenever you're feeling like there's just something you could be doing better, what is one compliment or one moment that resonates with you every time you keep pushing? What's that one thing that reminds you of, yeah, I can really do this? And more on the outside sense, where someone gets to turn that light and shine it on you. And when you're in that moment of not really knowing what direction or feeling down, you feel that light kind of being shined back onto you when it brings you back into that moment of someone putting you up a little bit more.
Mm, it's good. That's really good. Well, Allison,
The
I do
colleague.
this. I love it. I always make sure we include all the links, social media, website, all that stuff. But if you had one
Mhm.
in particular that anyone who's listened to this episode was like, I want to connect with Allison or I want to learn more or whatever it might be, what's the one link specifically you would want them to click?
Yeah. So one link specifically, can you put my email on there?
Oh, yeah, we can do that.
Perfect. Email, yeah, email is best option for me. Yep, email
Cool.
is best option for me, and I welcome all. I welcome all, and I also if anyone has any good ones for me you wanna share, I also take that too.
You got it. You got it. Well, I love it. This is super good. It's been really fun. I was glad that we got introduced to each other and we had that pre-chat. And I was like, yeah, I feel like you were just a great fit for the podcast. And I'm glad that we did this. So thank you so much. One, for sharing your story, sharing your insights, your takeaways, your lessons learned, all the above. And I just am excited to watch and connect with you after your season's done. I'll wait to reach out
Yep,
after
because 'cause I'll
September.
yeah, because it won't matter. Because even if you
Yeah.
try, we won't get there, but
Yeah.
in thought we are.
Exactly. Well, thank you
This
so
has
much for
been
being on the
such a
show.
pleasure too. Yeah, I really appreciate this and taking the time, and as I had mentioned to you, this is my first time kind of doing something like this, and you've made me feel very comfortable, felt like I could talk to a brick wall, which that is something that I can always do as well. And so this has been really great. And I'm looking forward to hopefully getting to meet you in person at maybe the next conference or somewhere along the lines so we can just talk a little bit more about life and what this industry does for us.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you're at VRMA in Orlando, I'll be there. So let's make sure
Okay.
we meet up at one of the happy hours or something like that.
It's either that or Galaxy's Edge because you're going to find me there 24/7.
Deal, because my nieces have a pass, so I'm gonna steal their pass and head over to that.
They have how many nieces you got? Because I was looking for
Oh,
just your
I got 4 in Orlando, so we might be able to just steal their passes and tell them that they're SOL for a couple days.
We could try just
Yeah,
putting shoes on our knees and walking in, getting a
that
little bit
works.
shorter. That tricks our
Yeah,
age naturally right there.
yeah.
Great.
Exactly,
I'm looking
exactly.
forward to stealing your niece's Disney passes. That's great.
Yes. I love it. Well, for all you slick talkers, out there that are watching, listening, thank you so much for tuning in. Grab the link or the email in the show notes so that way you can contact Allison and reach out and do all the connecting. And if you catch us at Galaxy's Edge, stealing my niece's Disney passes, and if my nieces are listening, you can't do anything about it. There's nothing that you can do to stop me. So it's gonna happen. And yeah, thank you so much for tuning in, and we'll see you all again next week. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to our show partners for making Slick Talk, the hospitality podcast, possible. We hope you enjoyed the show, and we would love to connect with you outside of the podcast. So you can follow us on all of our social media channels for daily hospitality content, or find us on slicktalkthepodcast.com. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm your host, Will Slickers, and we will see you guys all again next week.